Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's Community Services meeting. My name is Councillor Sylvia Dunn, and I'm chair of this meeting. Now, before I start the actual meeting, I have to go through some Zoom housekeeping rules. Please bear with. I know we've all heard them before, but we have to go through it. So I'll start. So thank you to all members of the public, councillors and officers who have come online to join today's virtual meeting. Please be aware that the council is recording this meeting and this will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. Can I please just ask that you all ensure you are muted at this point in time? We will then prompt speakers to unmute themselves one at a time. This is to ensure that we can all hear speakers clearly with minimal background noise. As chair, I will be leading today's meeting. The host, who is a council officer, will be providing the technical support and logistics to help the flow of the meeting. If you have any technical problems during the meeting, please use the chat function to flag this with the host. Please ensure phones are switched to silent and any distractions kept to a minimum. Where using video feed, please ensure any lighting is in front of you rather than behind so that you can be seen more clearly. When meetings run beyond dusk, please be mindful to use additional lighting too so you can be seen. Anyone wishing to speak in public participation will be given the opportunity to do so. When prompted, if you are using video feed, please raise your hand to show you wish to speak. If you've only joined with audio, please ensure you are unmuted and identify yourself and that you are wishing to speak. I, as chair, will then prompt when it is your turn to speak. You'll be given a maximum of 4 minutes to make your representation. Please state the agenda item which you will be speaking about. Through me as chair, council members or officers may then respond to your point if necessary. You will not automatically be able to reply unless I as chair allow you to do so. I would ask that participants looking to leave the meeting wait until the end of the agenda item to limit distractions for other participants. Anyone looking to rejoin partway through the meeting will join the Zoom waiting room and then be let into the meeting by the host at the next available point of the meeting. I trust that all councillors have read the taking part in the Zoom meeting instructions. I would like to summarise some key points. As chair, I will lead the meeting through the agenda as normal. Councillors must still apologise or make declarations of interest in the usual manner. Councillors wishing to speak should indicate this in the chat box, and if they have video feed, also raise their hands in the video feed so the order can be noted. When voting, this may be done by a show of hands, or if felt necessary, the chair can request the host to call out names in order and councillors should respond with their vote. Please note that votes will not be a recorded vote unless requested by a councillor in the usual manner. As with physical meetings, if you must leave the meeting for a comfort break, please do so in between agenda items wherever possible so as to limit distractions in the meeting and ensure you are still able to participate. If turning off video feed, please use the chat function to let the meeting participants know. To all present, please remember to show respect to others in the meeting and avoid interrupting where possible to enable others to follow the meeting. If any councillor feels concerned about any aspect of the meeting or discussion, please unmute yourself and clearly state point of order. The chair will then gesture for you to elaborate. Please do remember to check regularly that you are muted on your screen, as this will help hugely with the running of the meeting. Anyone present felt to be behaving unacceptably will be ejected from the meeting by the chair. On behalf of the council, I'd like to thank everyone for attending this virtual meeting. Thank you for your patience. Okay, sorry, I just lost my screen. Okay, so we start the meeting. So agenda item 1, we have apologies for absent, please, Tony, or?
I've not received any apologies, Sylvia.
That's good.
Chair, sorry.
Thank you. Agenda item 2, disclosure of interest. To deal with any disclosure by members of any disclosable pecuniary interest and interest other than pecuniary interest as defined under the Seaford Town Council Code of Conduct and the Localism Act 2011 in relation to matters on the agenda. So no. Number 3, public participation. To deal with any questions or brief representations from members of the public in accordance with Seaford Town Council's policy and the local authorities and police and crime panels, coronavirus flexibility of local authority and police and crime panel meetings, England and Wales regulations 2020. So I know, is anybody in the public wishing to speak? No? Oh, okay. Right, thank you. So we're moving on. So we have agenda item 4, which is the Community Services Committee draft 2021-22 budget report. Just bring it up. So it's to present the Community Services draft budget for 2021-22 and projected budgets to 25-26. Now we've got, I'm not going to read them all out, but we've got the 5 recommendations. I'm going to hand over to Tony and Karen to give us any updates if necessary. I suggest, which I'm going to recommend, that we take these, as they're quite detailed, we take these recommendations in order and individually, but also after we've had updates from Karen or Tony, I'd like them to move to open it up to the committee for discussion. So Karen or Tony, do you have anything to add to this agenda item?
Chair, I'd just like to say, taking them one at a time, as you suggested, that the overall committee budget is basically as it says in the report. We have looked at everything in detail. We have tried to take all income, that we've only put in there income that is certain, and we've put in there expenditure that we know is going to happen. There could potentially be other income that we would receive during the year. For instance, if we have the beach huts, the seasonal beach huts, if they come online. But we've done it this way purely and simply because if they do come online, that will be an added income, that will be extra money for the general reserve. Whereas if we actually budgeted for it now and it didn't come online, it would be a loss, and it would be a loss to the general reserve, which is not something we can afford to do next year. So I'd be pleased to take any questions that you might have. But the only other thing I'd like to mention that Tony might like to mention is that point 2.2, we've mentioned that Lewes District Council contract maintenance, we've been reviewing it, and Tony has an update on that. But other than that, I'd be pleased to answer any questions. Tony.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Yeah, 2.2, we mentioned about having discussions with Lewes District Council about the grounds contract, maintenance contract, and we've identified approximately since this about between £15,000 and £20,000 of savings on changing some of our areas where we put bedding plants in, such as the Crouch and the War Memorial, Pelham Road, and going for a wildflower mix, as was done this year, to really good effect at the Crouch. It looked absolutely fantastic this year. So we would, I mean, it's something that we can try out next year, and if it's not popular, we can always go back to bedding plants. But I think when a lot of people see it, it does look really, really good, and also it's got the you know, it's a sustainable way of planting. It's the bedding plants, it isn't so good. They get put in, thrown out, and changed again every year. So I would be recommending that. And also another saving is in some of the areas, reducing some of the grass cutting and letting the grass grow, and basically creating a sort of wild meadow effect in places. We got it down for places like the Village Green at Princess Drive, also in the corner of the Salts where the pitch and putt was. And basically it's leaving the area for one cut a year. Within the area that you let grow, there'll be wildflowers planted and whatever, but there'll be paths mowed in between where it's left to cut. I mean, the best example is at South Down Road corner, where only parts are cut through that now, and it looks so much nicer than it used to. The only thing is that I do need to let Lewes District Council know by the 6th of December whether we're going to do this, because they have to order in all the bedding plants. So it'd be good to have a steer from the councillors of whether they would like to see us going this way for next year. Apart from that, everything's pretty much self-explanatory on the report, and as Karen said, we'll welcome any questions.
So at this point, I'd like to. Oh yes, Karen. I was going to open up to the committee, but do you want to add something?
Sorry, can I just add to that, Chair, that those savings are 1.5 to 2% difference on the. I'll make 1.5 to 2% difference on the precept.
Okay. Right, yeah, I did wonder that. So, yes, Councillor Everton.
So, I might not be very good at, with the mowing of the other sites, does that include like the Crouch, the Martello fields and the Salts? The contracts?
Yes. Basically,
okay.
The areas we've looked at, we've identified parts of the Crouch, because some of, particularly the area around the football pitch, you'd still want to keep that short.
Yeah.
But there are other areas where it could grow, such as there's a corner in the, I think it's the southeast corner, where we got some trees there already, and it's already a bit of a wild area. And there's also that area coming up from Bramber Lane, where you've got the left, where we have some trees there. And again, that could be left to grow.
Okay, so I was just, the reason I was asking was, I had a quite a long conversation with Councillor Dunn about the mowing. And she provided me with some costings of those 4 sites, and it was like a significant cost, and one of the things that I said was, we have 3 groundsmen and professional ride-on mowing equipment up at the golf, and so I was suggesting that we could redirect a member of staff from there 1 week every 3 months to mow those larger spaces, because I think, how much was the cost for those 4 spaces, Councillor Dunn?
166,000.
Yeah, so we've got 3 people who would be qualified to actually do that mowing, and we own the equipment up at the golf. And I don't know why we're not just redirecting them 1 week every month, every 3 months or 6 months, or how often it's mowed, to go and do that. To be honest, even if they were unwilling to do that, it would be cheaper to hire another part-time groundsman for the golf and have him as a part-time lawnmower for those 4 big sites, and you would then cut that cost out of the budget.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you.
And I know, sorry, I know that that the Salts and the Crouch, because they have mowing that's related to golf and to bowling, that's slightly more specialised for those patches. But I think that being a person that looks after golf greens must have those transferable skills, and if not, it's cheaper to upskill them. We own the equipment, and we employ people who can actually do that job. So I don't know why we don't either redirect them or just hire in a second person who can do that. That's what I.
Yeah, that's put forward. Yeah, Tony, have you got? Yeah, please, Tony, have you anything to add to this?
Thank you, Chair. I think I'd have to look at those figures, but it's certainly more. You're saying cuts every 3 months. It's certainly an awful lot more than that. That's carried out.
Well, whatever it is,
it
would still be cheaper to have a part-time person on the books using our equipment from the golf than it would be to pay that contract.
If I may, I don't know whether it would be, but it is something that we need to look into, and it is something we are looking into, the grounds contract, to see what other options there are. It's not just as simple as getting the ground workers just down to do our own ones. I mean, they're absolutely busy enough doing the golf course. We couldn't put any more on them. But yeah, there could be a possibility of taking on more staff, and that's one thing we will be looking at. Absolutely.
Can you?
It would be a lot cheaper just to have another grounds person on part-time hours that maintains those 4 very, very large patches of land and uses the equipment we already own than to have a contractor in.
If I may, I'm not sure whether it would be, but it's something that we will look into. And there's another thing about getting the equipment to these places as well. It would be a lot. It's something we will look into.
Thank you, Tony. So can you bring back something next year at the next community services meeting? If we have time to, to do so in that, or the one in mid-May or whatever, so that the committee can see an update on this.
Yes, I mean, I don't want to commit us to saying in February we'll come back with something, but certainly next year. It's one thing we're looking at, whether to even go with another contractor. We're just not sure at the moment.
The contractor that we've got, it's Wyval, isn't it? Is that correct? No.
No, Chair. It was Burley's, but now they've been bought out by a company called ID Verdi.
Oh right, okay. They're contracted under Lewes District, not us, isn't it? How long do you know how long the contract is for?
I believe they got another 3 years.
Right, okay. Because that might have to also be taken into consideration, because you can't just leave a contract. You'd have to negotiate a way to not have them again or whatever. So
well, actually, we can just leave the contract. We can just remove ourselves from it.
Oh, okay. All right. That's handy to know. Okay.
So would we need to know that? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh.
Sorry, I saw someone else's hand up as well, but I didn't. Oh, it was Councillor Meek. Sorry, can I just take Councillor Meek's question, Councillor Everton? Councillor Meek, did you have your hand up?
I did, but my question was answered by you inquiring what the contract status was. So I was basically asking about when the contract was up and how we get out of it, but Tony's answered that, and so have you. I would just like to say I wholeheartedly support Councillor Everton's suggestion here. I think we really need to look at this. The price of this contract, if you look at each site that we're going to, it's thousands and thousands and thousands. I just don't know how they work it out. I mean, to me, okay, maybe grounds contracts are like that, but I quite agree with Councillor Everton. I'm convinced we can do it cheaper just by keeping it in-house and regulating it ourselves. And that way we can also regulate how we cut things, where we cut things, how short we cut things, etc., which will tie in with our ideas about how we do conservation and wildlife meadows and things like that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Meek. Yes, Tony, yes.
Thank you, Chair. I do think you'll find the contract is reasonable value. Otherwise, Lewes District Council wouldn't have it. I think what you've also got to remember is it's not just grass cutting for, say, a football pitch. It's doing the white lines, it's getting the goalposts out, it's setting the nets up. There are a lot of other things involved in it as well. So if we took it on ourselves, it would be a massive thing to take on.
Councillor Everton.
Yeah, I do know it's not just a matter of mowing lawns, but like I said, if we had an additional part-time person, we already own the equipment, so it is a significant saving.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, if I could just say one more thing.
Yes, Tony.
That equipment is used pretty much all the time at the golf course. I think you would struggle sharing it. I'm not saying we can't, but I think you would struggle. I think if we were going to do it ourselves, we would have to get more equipment in.
Okay. All right, thank you, Tony. Yes, Councillor Brown.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think Councillor Everton's come up with some excellent suggestions there. However, I think we do need to look very carefully at the costs, particularly the machinery costs, and whether the machinery that we've got on the golf course is actually suitable for the other tasks that we want to carry out there. So, we really need a good feasibility study to examine what the costs are and what the savings might be. And I think you might find that the 161,000 cost has gone down considerably when, first of all, we've got to employ somebody. Secondly, we've got to maybe buy some new equipment. Thirdly, we've got to maintain it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Everton?
Yeah, I do understand that even if we shared the equipment, it would be a struggle, but I'm not suggesting that this is a long-term thing. We can open it up a little, but I'm saying if we have to struggle with sharing equipment for the next 2 years while we go through a post-COVID crisis, then that's something we should look at doing. We should look at struggling with sharing equipment, even if it's difficult, just to get these jobs done in order to avoid families struggling financially with an increase in precept.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else would like to ask any questions on this item? No, right. So going back to the recommendations, right, we have got the recommendation. The committee is recommended to, number 1, comment upon the draft committee budget for 21 to 22 and the projected budgets to 25-26 and recommend its proposal to the Finance and General Purposes Committee. I will need, if there's no more debate on this item, no more questions, I will need a proposer and seconder. Yes, Karen.
Can I just say one more thing, Chair?
Yes.
At the time of writing this report, if for the overall council budget, if we were going to put 100 grand into the general reserve next year, which is what I would recommend wholeheartedly that you do, as we all know, £100,000 is only about a quarter of what we really need. When at the moment we're sitting on a 29% precept increase, about £26 per bandee. This could go down on after the different committees. If a committee decides that what's in that paper, what's in that proposed budget, they don't want everything, it could go down. That's why I've put into the report on each of the projects. I'm afraid that this is the committee where the most savings can be made, because this is the committee where all the projects are, and that is just the way it is. But that's why I've highlighted in all the different projects how much it affects the bandee. If the bandee base that we're given from the district in December increases, which hopefully it should do, but it hasn't always, so we can't rely on it yet, it will take the percentage down a bit. I've no idea how much by, but hopefully we should have that figure before FNGP. The other thing I wanted to mention is that at the moment, and I haven't mentioned it in the report for a reason, there is 58,000 in an earmarked reserve for the Seafront Development Plan. And I haven't mentioned it and I haven't recommended its use purely and simply because of the situation that we're in at the moment. I don't know yet if it's going to be needed. It's possible it could be needed this year. I'm hoping it won't be, with the savings that we've already made, the extra things we've done, the things we haven't done, then I'm hoping that we won't need it. If we don't need it, then that can be used when we come to budget setting in January or even December with FNGP. That can be used to offset the cost of some of these projects. But I just thought before you made the decision that you need to be aware, sorry, my light's gone, you needed to be aware of what it's looking like at the council at the moment. On top of that, whatever if you recommend this budget exactly as it is to FNGP, and FNGP recommend it to full council, and it goes to full council and we're sitting on a higher figure than they want to agree, of course, full council have the right to drop out the projects or anything else that they think that can come out of the budget. That's all, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Karen. So basically, the list, for example, the Bonning Step wall, 50,000, the replacement bins, Martello Field fence replacement, and the rest of the list, what Karen has itemised, with details of how much, if we go ahead with these projects, we agree to them in this budget, that how much they will put onto the precept. Is anybody happy with this list? Does anybody want anything to drop out? I mean, I went through with it at the budget meeting with Karen and Tony, and I was trying to, a lot was obviously dropped, but I was trying to not drop everything. I was trying to see if there was anything in this list that, you know, we felt was important at this specific time. But if you as a committee feel it's all too much and it's going to make, I mean, the 29% increase on the precept is pretty tough. You know, if we want to pare that back, we're going to have to really reconsider some of these projects. We either stop them all together or we take some out. Councillor Everton. No. Councillor Walraven.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just wondering about South Hill Barn, if we can postpone that maybe to, you know, to another year, or so we can sort of try and get a little bit back on our feet, hopefully next year. If you know, if any of these projects can just be delayed 12 months, 24 months.
Thank you. Councillor Meek.
There are a few things that occur to me. Our precept is the lowest in the whole area. That's one thing. So raising it is not untoward in respect of Lewes District Council area generally. In fact, you know, we've got that margin, I feel, that we can, without kind of moral scruple, raise it, because actually Seaford residents have benefited over the last few years from not having such a high precept. So that's one thing. I feel that, I know in the report it says that, for instance, replacing the fence around is it the Martello Field, because it's looking shabby. Well, you know, when push comes to shove, things might have to look a bit shabby if you're in a financial predicament. Looking shabby is not intrinsically dangerous for people or anything like that. It's just what you're thinking of the town looks like. Well, if people complain, you say, look, we're not raising your precept so much because we're trying to save money because we've got this financial situation. So I think it's a balancing act between what is essential. I don't see fencing around the Martello Field as essential. It might not look very good, but if you're worried about raising the precept because people are in extremity, then just don't do the fencing, it seems to me. But I feel you could raise the precept and not do the fencing, and you still kind of saved a lot of money, you know. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Everton, Karen had her hand up, and then Tony, and then I'll come back to yourself. Yes, Karen.
Just like to say, Chair, that it is possible what you could agree, and you could pick from the list of what you think is the most important and what isn't. I would say that the Boninstead wall is very important, and I've put in the report for it to be met from capital receipts, so it doesn't affect the precept. So you could say, for instance, that the Martello Fields fence and perhaps say the Salts development plan feasibility works, you only want them to go ahead if they can be met from either capital receipts or earmarked reserves that are available at the time.
Yes.
So you could do that. That is an option.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Tony, was you going to? I saw your hand up after Karen's.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of things. Just going on Councillor Walraven's comments about South Hill Barn. I personally would like to try and keep some money back for it, but one of the reasons is we are getting an income from it, from a lot of the filming we have there, where the people doing the shoots use it as storage and whatever, and even filming inside it. We've got a film shoot coming up in a couple of weeks' time, and Ellie, our location officer, has managed to hire out the barn, hopefully if we can clear enough space, for about £400 a day. And so that's 3 days, so that's 1,200 quid. So I would like to try and just make the barn a little bit more accessible and a little bit more secure. So that was one of the reasons I put that in. Another thing I'd like to say, that absolutely agree with Councillor Meek about, you know, things looking shabby. We're in difficult times. One thing about the fence is it's a constant drain on us because we're constantly having to mend it. It is always costing us money, bits and bobs. What I would say on something like the fence and on quite a few of these projects, we would also be looking at trying to get grant funding for them. So I would hope for, say, the fence, we would not spend that much. We would at least get some match funding for it. So, you know, I kind of look at these figures as the most that we would spend.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Everton.
Yeah, I agree with what actually Councillor Walraven and Karen and Tony have said. I think we have to stop as many projects as possible, only in the short term, because next year is going to be extremely difficult, not just for us as a council, but for the residents of this town. And I know they're talking about an increase in the precept, and I think, I don't know if it was you, Councillor Dunn, told me it was about £25 a month or something like that for Band D. I'm not sure, but I'd just like to say that this year there has been a 60% increase in the use of food banks, and one of our local churches has put out an appeal for £5, 90 lots of £5, because there are 90 children in this town who aren't getting Christmas presents this year. And so the church has appealed for £5 from residents, so each child. Now, if 90 children aren't getting Christmas presents, the other thing they're not getting is food. And a single bag of shopping can push, the cost of a single bag of shopping added to the precept could push an awful lot of families into food poverty and period poverty. And I really, really feel strongly that we should, that's the absolute last resort. We should not be pushing the residents, some residents of this town, increasing the number of people that are in food poverty, for when we can look at a lot of these projects and say, I'm not talking about stopping what we do, but for 12 months suspending them while we try and get a bit more, you know, a bit more balance, because that's what the residents of the town are having to do. They're having to stop the things that they would normally do just to pay their bills. And I feel strongly that an increase in precept is going to so heavily impact the poorest and people on the edge in this town that we should do everything we can to avoid it.
Okay, thank you. Karen.
Yes, Chair, can I just clarify that if our precept went up by 25%, or if the Band D went up by 25%, it's £25 per year, not per month.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Meek.
Yes, I was going to query that, and I did think it was per year. But also, I'd just like to respond to Councillor Everton. I mean, I understand exactly what you're saying, and you know, we don't want anybody to be in poverty. But do you know what? The majority of the people in Seaford are reasonably well-to-do, and they're paying less than people in Newhaven. Now, you're not surely going to tell me that people in Newhaven are more affluent than people in Seaford. I've got no compunction about raising the precept in Seaford. What we need to do is put some things in place so that the people who are very poor in Seaford get supported. And that doesn't mean to say that the majority don't get charged more for their precept, which would only bring it up to roughly what is being paid in Newhaven. I don't have a problem with that. That's my personal view. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Meek. Councillor Brown.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I would strongly recommend that we go ahead with the retaining wall on the Bonningstead beach huts, because I think that that's a really good marketing activity there, and it will improve the overall look of the beach huts themselves, and also the people who've already purchased beach huts will be passing that on to any future people who want to buy them. You know, and I think that's a great plus. You know, it's a really good marketing opportunity. So I would strongly recommend to the committee that that's one of the projects that you do allow to go forward. And we only need to sell one and a quarter beach huts to pay the cost of that wall. So, you know, it could be self-funding. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Cash.
Is it possible to do, as Karen said, can we take each one individually and say, make a list of our order of priorities? And I would just say that I did go and have a look at the fencing around the Martello fields. Yes, I know, Tony, you do have to regularly go in and put different bits of fencing back together again. But I think it looks as if it could, there are some bits of it that are really quite strong. And I think we could actually give that a lower priority. It's not a safety fence, is it, except to stop children perhaps running onto the road. And it certainly isn't a security fence because everyone can, you know, climb through it. So really it's a border marker, isn't it, for our land. And the fact that if we can lock the gates, that gives us power, the power to remove people who are legally camping or whatever there. But looking at it, I think it would be low priority as far as I'm concerned. South Barn, I agree with Tony. I think we just must make sure it's weatherworthy and it's usable in the way that we can use it at the moment. And I don't think that's too high a cost to go ahead with that particular thing of making sure the barn is secure.
Okay, all right, thank you, Councillor Cash. Tony, you're going to say something?
Thank you, Chair. Just quickly say about the fence. In some ways, part of it is a safety matter because the knee rail fence along where the cars park to the seafront side, a lot of that fencing is failing, and if a car were to shoot forward at all, it would be straight over the top into the field. So, you know, the very least, I would like to get that knee rail sorted out.
I think if it's a safety issue, Tony, we've got to take that on board. Safety has to be our first priority. But if we could, you know, look at a way of perhaps doing that without having to redo a lot of the fencing. Some of it is quite strong looking, I must say. I was quite surprised.
Yep, absolutely agree.
So out of the list, committee, what do you want to make the recommendations? I mean, the wall, Karen's explained that won't actually touch the precept because that will come from CIL or earmark reserve. So we're fine with that. But then we've got replacement bins. I mean, I'd like to see new bins on the seafront because, you know, they're absolutely dreadful what's down there. But again, is it a priority for this budget? Do you want to drop that lower down the list? Do you want to knock it on the head temporarily? Then we've got the fence replacement. Tony's explained about that. We've got electric to the ice cream concession at Bonningstead, Salts CCTV works, the Salts development plan feasibility work. That I think could actually go on hold. You know, we haven't got any other sort of surplus income to do much in the Salts anyway, so I think that actually could go on hold. Then we've got the tennis courts, which probably does also come from CIL and earmark reserves. Southfield Barn we've discussed about, and the last item, the Martello toilets, but I'll come back to that. So can I have some feedback from the committee what you want to do? Karen?
Can I recommend that we actually take them one at a time and we make a decision on each one, and then I know what to put in the budget for F&GP.
Okay, so right, so we've got the first one is the wall.
Tony's indicating, Sylvia.
All right, Tony, yes.
Thanks, Chair. If we just save me going through everyone individually, if I would want to put one very high on the list, it would be the 20,000 for the tennis courts, because it's a nearly £200,000 project, and we pretty much got everything through funding and through a loan, and all it would cost the town council is the 20,000. A lot of that will be met by SIL. I just think it would be a fantastic project to try and get up and running for next year.
Yeah, and it's an income generator as well, isn't it? Because people know it. Yes.
Chair, I will say it's not a huge income generator, because a lot of the money we're going to make from it is going to go into a sinking pot to keep the courts up, you know, how they should be, so we don't find ourselves in another 20 years time with really grotty courts and no money to you know, refurbish them. So it's not going to be a huge money maker.
No, okay.
You know, I've got to be honest about that. But I think, you know, for the town and for getting people out, it's all about community tennis, affordable tennis for people, all-inclusive tennis. I think it would be it's a really good thing to try and get behind. Thank you, Chair.
Sorry, Councillor Cash. Just
Can I propose then that we do go ahead with the tennis courts? Can we get that one put through?
Okay, thank you. Karen?
I was just going to add on the tennis courts, just add to what Tony said, to be honest, that there's probably, of the 20,000, there will be at least £13,000 in the SIL money as it stands. We get more SIL money in April, but we never know how much it is. Last year, I think it was in April, it was about 11,000, but in September it was 3. So we just don't know. So there will be more than 13,000. And one of the later resolutions on the agenda is to use that money for that. So the cost to the council is very little for a very good project.
Okay, thank you. Well, I've got from Jean a proposal regarding the tennis courts. Can I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Walraven. And are we all in favour of actually putting that project through? Lovely. Okay, so we've got the salts. Okay, thank you. We've got the wall. Are we happy to go ahead? We'll do again the fact that it obviously supports the selling of the beach huts. Are we? Is that a yay? Yes, is that a yes? Can you all sort of show me your hands, please? Okay, right. Replacement bins on the seafronts. Councillor Walraven.
Can the existing bins last another 12 months?
Only? I've got no doors, I think so.
Thank you, Chair. Quick answer is yes, they can.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Cash.
We've had some bad times, haven't we, last summer with litter there, with the crowds coming down during the COVID period. But recently, I think that has been amazingly clean, that area, particularly since the children's signs and things went up. And when we did our last beach clean, I don't know, I think John was there and possibly James, I came back along there trying to do the top area and there was nothing to pick up. It was very, very heartening, really. So I think it's one that we could leave for the time being anyway.
Okay, lovely, thank you.
So I would put that forward, please.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Yes, Councillor Meek?
I would second that.
Yeah, lovely, and we're all in agreement that we're going to drop the bins, as much as they're my sort of projects. I've been fighting for the bins for years. Right, the fence.
Can I just clarify to put it in the budget for the year after, the following year, yes?
Yes, please. Right, the Martello Fields fence replacement, how are we feeling on that? Any views? Are we going ahead? Councillor Everton?
Yeah, I think we could wait on that one.
Okay, anybody else? Councillor Edson?
Yeah, I think we should take note of what Tony said about the fencing. You know, the knee-high fencing where the cars park. That could work out to be quite a serious mishap if a car did go through there.
So can we say, Sylvia, that any safety issues that come up for the fencing should be dealt with as a priority, but apart from that, the sound bits of the fence are left for the next session, next year?
I'm happy with that. Is the committee happy with that?
So are we saying just the bit where Tony said the cars are parked and could go down the slope?
I think we need to leave that to Tony's discretion, don't we? If he sees something that he thinks is unsafe, he needs to be able to deal with it straight away.
Right, okay, is everybody, can you all nod or wave at me so I know that that's what we're all happy with? Karen, have you got that going forward?
Yes, Chair.
Lovely. Right, this electric to the ice cream concession at Bonningstead. I don't know, I'm not really, I mean, what do we do about this one? Run off the electricity instead of the diesel generator. Sorry, Councillor Walraven, yes.
I just feel with this one, with the diesel generator, it's not giving, you know, it's sending out fumes and it's not very, you know, sort of
environmentally friendly. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Okay. Tony, did you want to add something to this? And then Councillor Edson. Tony?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'd agree with that. It would mean pretty much on the seafront that we won't have any generators. That there may be the possibility of one for the fresh fish stall, which we'll try and work out. But it would be great to have a whole seafront without any generators.
Right.
We're also going out, putting out the tender for the ice cream concession at Bonningstead.
Oh, that's right.
So as part of that tender, I would like to put out to them that it'll be electric only.
Okay, brilliant, lovely. Councillor Edson?
Yes, I would agree with that. I've been down there when it's not a very windy day, and there's usually a lot of children in and around that ice cream. I was there with my grandchildren, and it does really pong, you know, with the diesel fumes. Not very nice at all. So I'm all in favour of that one.
Going that one, lovely. Okay, we're going to go through that one. The Salts Development Plan feasibility work, I think, should go on hold. Is the committee in agreement, or did you want Tony?
Sorry, Chair. You left out the Salts CCTV.
Oh, sorry. I've jumped. Sorry, the Salts. Sorry, committee. Sorry, the Salts CCTV work. Safety. Councillor Cash.
I'd like to give Tony to give us his opinion on that, please, because I'm not sure how necessary it is myself. So okay. I'd like some advice. Tony, please.
Tony.
Thank you, Chair. I think it could wait another year.
Okay.
I think it's another one of those things that I would still like to keep on the back burner in case we could get some grant funding for. So, you know, I wouldn't say it definitely goes back a year, but we've got a lot of CCTV there now. The majority of the park is covered. So, yeah, I'd be happy to push that one back.
Okay, thank you. So we'll put that, so that's getting the thumbs up, thank you. Yeah, is that, oh, it's all the thumbs up, right, lovely. So now the Salts Development Plan feasibility works. Are we happy to defer this one? Yeah, we've got a thumbs up, right, so that one's being deferred to next year. And then we've discussed the Salts tennis courts because we had a proposal and a seconder regarding that from Councillor Cash. Southfield Barn, I think we're going to say we're all nodding for a yes on that one due to the fact that it brings in an income as well. And the last one, if I'm correct, is yes, is this Martello toilets. Now it does come up in the recommendations at number 5. Now I'm never been quite happy with the cost of these toilets. I've always found it a bit extortionate. So we will obviously have to decide at recommendation 5 whether we do push for a loan. My view is not to. I think this needs to come back to community services because we're a new committee for discussions on jiggling maybe the design, maybe looking at bringing the cost down because I find 400,000 quite steep for toilets. So that's my personal view. Councillor Cash?
I think I read that, Tony, you think that the lottery bid might come through in December. You might have more information on it then. Would there be any problem with changing the design if we got the bid?
Thank you, Chair. It depends. At the moment, the bid is based on the design we have. There are certain things about the design that would need to remain in. One of the things being the changing places room, which the lottery, you know, was one of the things they're really behind. There could be changes with the cafe because I mean we're not just talking toilets here. We're talking about a cafe with 2 concessions, the changing places toilet, which is I believe between 20 and 30,000 on its own because there's a lot of equipment in there. It's a very specialist thing to have. From my last discussions with the lottery, I don't know whether it's because of COVID and the sort of the pressure that's put them under, I think they're more likely to discuss changes with us now to try and reduce costs. So I think that may be part of our discussions. I'm hoping to meet up with our area officer, a lottery officer, in December. So I would hope to know more then. I did speak to her about 3 weeks ago, and what she said is just during this year, everything's been parked. Everything that that they normally do is being parked, and they're only just picking things up again. Her personal view, and she doesn't want to commit to anything, is she does feel we have a strong case for this bid. We really do. And the point that it's gone on so long, which is incredibly frustrating, I know, but there are so many, there's a lot of time where it could have just been thrown out by now. It goes through boards after board, apparently, to the lottery. So, I think at the moment, we just need to hang in there. I know we can't hang in there indefinitely, but certainly through to, I don't know, March, April next year. And then we relook.
All right, thank you, Tony. Councillor Everton.
Yeah, I think it's particularly because it's a really high-end facility for people with disabilities. It's really, really valuable to the town, and I think Tony's right that that's actually a really strong element in the bid. My understanding from talking to one of the other councillors that there's quite a lot of expense related to like curved walls and things like that. I mean, we could change the design, because then it would just be a like for like building. It's not like there's a curved wall building there and we want to change it to square. If we took that element away, it'd still be a like for like building. And there's a quite a bit. It was Councillor Lord that I spoke to who's actually built a similar project near Pevensey, and he was saying that the curved walls add a considerable cost. So, and I don't think changing it to a square building would affect the bid at all, because it's about what that building does for the community, not about the shape of a wall.
Thank you, Councillor Everton. The problem that we've got at recommendation 5 is that if we don't get the lottery bid, we've got no money. We have to make a decision in, do we take out a loan? That's what I'm not comfortable with. So, right, sorry, I know I've got a few hands up. Councillor Meek.
I think we should just remember that the Martello toilets situation has been going on for such a long time. And so many people in the town are considerably fed up with the fact that nothing's been done about it for so many years, and that they see it as a kind of carbuncle on the seafront. And they really do want it sorted out. And I'm afraid that I think if we don't get the lottery bid, which I'm glad to hear from Tony that it sounds like it sounds promising, and I agree, the longer it's gone on, I think that means that it's still very much a live situation. I would suggest that going forward, I think we ought to borrow the money to do it. But I think if we are borrowing the money, we certainly need to look at a different scale of the building. And I know that the previous mayor did a kind of costing, and I know that it was completely different from the design, but it wasn't completely out of the park in the way of so different from what we needed. And I think, I'm sure that we could possibly reduce it by 50 to 100,000 just by making some serious changes, just so that we can get the new toilets built, which is what so many people in the town want. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Brown, did you have your hand up?
I did. Yes, Chair. I'd like to support what Councillor Meek and Councillor Cash is saying, that I think that we need a plan B on the toilets now. We need to relook at the design, and perhaps we could ask Tony to look into that and have an alternative design available in the event that we don't get the lottery money. I'm not too happy about borrowing more money at the moment, because the council is quite heavily in debt, but if needs must, then I'm adamant that we should have the changing in the toilet facilities in that building, but I'm not sure about the rest of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Yes, Karen.
Can I just comment, Chair, that you don't have to make the decision tonight as to whether we're going to go ahead with the toilets as they are. That can all be decided later. I mean, the only decision that needs making tonight is whether we include the £22,000 in the budget. And I think if we get the lottery funding, it's been quite a while now since we put the money in for the bid in. So it's what I would hate to happen is that we get the money from the lottery and say we get £350,000. I think it's about that, isn't it, Tony? Say we get £350,000 and it ends up being 360, 370, we can't afford it.
Yeah.
So the question is, do we put that 22,000 in, even if we don't get a loan, even if we, you know, even if we decide that we're not going to get a loan, we're actually, you know, that can be decided next year, but it can't be decided next year if we don't have the money in there. So what we need to decide tonight is, are we going to put that 22,000 in? And it can be used either for a loan or a contingency sum if we really need it. And if we didn't need it, and it is in the budget, it will increase the general reserve next year, which is a bonus because it will keep the precept down the following year, which is what we're all aiming to do.
Okay, thank you, Karen. Councillor Everton.
Yeah, I was just going to say, is there any way we can sort of see what we do get, like make a decision, you know, if we do get the lottery money, to say that whatever we get from the lottery, that's the cost of the build. Like we then aim to have a design that brings it in using just that money.
Okay, Tony, you want to add something? And then Councillor Meek.
One thing, just chatting to the lottery officer, is that figure it's not a figure that's set in stone. What she's sort of saying is that once a decision has been made that they will support the project, that they will also help us with the delivery of the project, and you know, they understand the figures could go up or come down. So the figure they've given us is a sort of it's a benchmark figure, if you like. And you know, if to achieve what we want to achieve, or they want us to achieve, is higher, then they would look to help us with that. But saying that, any match funding that she was saying would be, you know, appreciative for them.
Okay, lovely. Thank you, Tony. Councillor Meek.
I would like to propose that we do put in the 22,000, because I think also if we do need to do any redesigning or something, that's going to cost us money anyway. So we do need in the initial stage to have some money in reserve to be able to manoeuvre if we did want to redesign or reconfigure with expert opinion. I think that might involve some costs. So I would like to propose that we do put that money in.
All right, thank you.
I'll second that.
I was going to say, because we've got a proposal, we've got a seconder, so I need all those in favour of ring fencing the 22,000 in light of what Karen has said. It's there as a contingency fund, we don't have to use it, it can top up the general reserves and so on. So can I have a show of hands, all those in favour, please? Okay, that's carried. Right, lovely. So we've gone through the list. Karen, are you happy with what we've discussed?
Yeah, can I just, you might be interested to know, Chair, that from the items that you've recommended being put forward to next year, or put back to next year, whichever way you look at it, it's brought the draft precept sum down at the moment to 20.3%. Which is £18.64 a year at the moment. So it makes quite a considerable difference. I would suggest that in the new year, in the new financial year, when we know exactly where we are with things and how the year has gone and whether there's any more lockdowns and however much that might have cost us, whether we sell any more beach huts might make a difference, that we bring the projects that we've put forward to next year back to committee and say, well, we've got this sum in earmarked reserves, we've got this sum in capital receipts because we've sold X, Y, and Z. Now, what do you want to spend it on? Yeah. And I think that would be a good way forward to do early in the new financial year.
Yeah, thank you, Karen. That's really something to look forward to. Okay, thank you, committee. So now back to the recommendations. So the recommendation one was comment upon the draft committee budget and the projected budgets to 25-26 and recommend its proposal to the Finance and General Purposes Committee. Could I please have a Proposer and seconder. Thank you, Councillor Walraven. Councillor Edson, the seconder, and all those in favour to go forward with what we've discussed? Yeah, lovely. Thank you. Carried. Right. 2. Excuse me. Recommendation 2. Approve that from the 2021-22 at the year end, should sufficient overall town council funds be available, the RFO earmarks any surplus income over expenditure from the sale of memorial benches. This earmarked reserved is to be used for future maintenance of all memorial benches. Proposer and seconder, please. Okay, Councillor Walraven, Councillor Everton, all in favour? Thank you. Carried. 3. Approve using up to 50,000 of funds from the capital receipts earmarked reserved for the building of a siege defence wall in front of Bonningstead Beach Huts. I'll propose this. Seconder, Councillor Edson. All in favour? Carried. Okay, 4. Approve using up to 20,000 of funds from the Community Infrastructure Levy, CIL, earmarked reserve for the Salts Tennis Court renovation, should there be sufficient funds available. Proposer. Councillor Meek, seconder, Councillor Walraven, all in favour? That's lovely. Now, number 5, discuss and improve whether or not the loan should be applied for if the Community Lottery Fund grant bid to fund the building of Martello toilets is not successful or only partly successful. Now, do we wish as a committee to add anything to this recommendation on the basis of our discussion? That if we do get the lottery fund, that's great, and we can go forward working with them to get our toilets in place. Or do we now add, if you're all in agreement, because I can propose this, if I could have a seconder, is that we add to this that if we don't get the lottery fund, that we will go forward with a loan on the proviso that we re-look at the design of the toilets to bring the cost down as much as possible, so we're not borrowing too much? Or are you not happy with the loan? Help. Councillor Walraven.
Yeah, no, I think I can go along with that. I mean, it's basically bringing it back to committee, isn't it?
Yes, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Councillor Walraven. Councillor Edson.
Yes, Chair. This idea of the round walls, was that basically the architect's design for a cosmetic reason, make it look very nice, or was it for preserving the integrity, you know, with the inclement weather that we have? I mean, sometimes they take these things into consideration. I don't know. I wasn't there, but obviously.
Oh, sorry, go on, Tony, because I know a little bit about this as well.
Oh, do you? Oh, well, I don't know. So, you know, if it's just for cosmetic reasons.
Yeah. Tony, what would you like to add?
Thanks, Chair. Well, you're saying that you probably know more than I do because it was designed before my time and
yes,
it was something that I inherited. What I will say, I don't think that curved walls have anything practicality. I don't think they bring any practicality to the building. I can only think that because the building is next to the Martello Tower, that there was some sort of thing going on there.
Yeah, they were trying to answer the question, because I worked with Craig on this, they were trying to put in a very elaborate design that was in line, Tony is correct, that fell in line with the Martello toilets. But really, seriously, you start putting, my husband's a builder, you start putting in curved walls, you then have to put in specialist curved utility, like toilets and sinks and all that, and that will really rake the cost up. So we went back, or the committee at the time went back to the drawing board and said, no, you've got to go for the sort of like the basic standard, rectangle. So yeah, it was, to answer Councillor Edson's question, it was purely cosmetic. So it was a very inexpensive cosmetic as well. So no, we've gone back to the, excuse the pun, the bog standard sort of rectangle toilet. So, so yeah. So yes, Tony.
We haven't actually gone back to rectangle. The latest drawings are still has the curves.
Oh, has it?
Yes.
Which of the curves?
No.
And reason?
It was just it. You know, that design was agreed, and for it to be changed, it would have to go through council again to agree the change. But I think looking back at the drawings, looking back at the history of it, it was even more elaborate than it is now. But certainly the design as it is now, and you'll see on our website and everything, does have some curved walls on the sides.
Yeah, but that doesn't affect what is placed inside the toilet, does it? It doesn't mean you've got to, it's not curved walls for the sink and the toilet. It's sort of the edges, isn't it? Because there's an overlap. So it does give a bit of shelter outside, so you can sort of sit on the corners and get a bit of shelter from the wind and the rain. So I think the curvature's in that principle, not actually inside the toilet.
Yes, I think you're correct there, yes.
Okay. All right, so I've lost my screen. Sorry. So number 5, discuss and prove whether or not a loan should be applied for. So do we say that if we don't get, can we put I'll put this in as a proposal, I don't know how to word it, but that if we don't get the lottery fund grant bid and we have to consider a loan, that before it goes ahead, it is brought back to community services. Agreed or not agreed? Councillor Edson? Right.
Yes, I'll second that, Chair.
Sorry, Chair, that Izzy's put in.
Yeah, I've just seen that. Can you read what is?
Do you want me to read it out?
Yes, please.
To approve that a loan should be applied for if the Community Lottery Fund grant bid to fund the building of Martello toilets is not successful or only partly successful, subject to the design of the Martello toilets being revisited.
Yep. Are we happy with that? I saw a couple of hands up. Councillor Meek?
I'd just like to add something in to maybe consider that we think of sustainability within the building as well, which I don't think has been voiced at all. And I think as we go forward, we've got to consider sustainability and environmental accountability. So I don't know whether we could think of, you know, some solar on the roof or something like that. I just wonder, I'm just putting that out there as from my point of view, I think we should consider that as well. I know that might add the cost, but you might find some funding for that anyway. I don't know. Thank you, Chair.
Would you like that added, Councillor, would you like that added in as a sentence into the, you would? So Isabel, I know she probably can hear us. I can't see Isabel. Isabel, hi Isabel. Isabel, can you add that in as a sentence?
Yeah, I'll just make something up and then I'll pop it in there in a second, sorry.
Okay, lovely. So when Isabel's done that, if you can hold on committee, then we can then decide whether we're happy with that and move forward.
Sorry, just so that I'm getting this right. So would we be looking, so subject to the design of the Martello toilets being revisited to assess sustainability and cost?
Yes.
Yeah, something just like that. I'll just put it back in.
Yeah. Councillor Everton.
Sorry, were we saying that a loan should be applied for if we don't get the funding, or we're saying we're going to come back and discuss
that's good. Yeah.
Having a loan?
It does say in the what Isabel does say to prove that a loan should be applied for.
Yeah.
Tony?
We're saying it's subject to. So that approval is subject to the revisited design.
Of the toilets, so coming back to community services.
Yeah, I would assume that would be the place for it.
Tony?
Sorry, I mean, I will add that if we're not successful with the bid, the grant bid,
Yeah.
the only way we're going to build them at the moment is with a loan.
Right, yeah.
You know, that's what we've got.
Right. Karen?
Just to clarify again, Chair, that even though this committee can recommend that, it has to go to full council to get a loan. So
Yeah.
it will be discussed there as well.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Karen. Yes, that's fine. Thank you very much. Yeah, because we wouldn't be allowed to do, we could make the recommendations, but we can't approve the loan. So are we all happy with, do you need me to read it out, or have you all read?
We've read it.
Yeah, and are you, right, so we've got that. So I will need.
Can I propose that then, Sylvia?
Yeah, thank you. Seconder?
Sorry, just to be really, I'm just thinking, just for the recording, I don't think the chat function comes up, so it would be useful if the proposal was read out.
Okay, Isabel, could you read it out?
Yeah, so it's to approve that a loan should be applied for if the Community Lottery Fund grant bid to fund the building of Martello toilets is not successful or only partly successful, subject to the design of the Martello toilets being revisited to assess sustainability and cost.
Lovely. So I've had a proposer from Councillor Cash. Have I got a seconder, please? Councillor Meek. All those in favour? Thank you. That's carried. So that's the end of this agenda item. Thank you very much. Before we move on, Karen, are you happy with what's been discussed and that you can now put that into the budget?
Yes, Chair.
Lovely, thank you. Okay, moving on. We have. Sorry, I'm not working on a hard copy this evening. I'm working on my tablet. Okay, we've got agenda item number 5. We've got to inform the committee on progress and actions relating to Seaford Town Council's assets and services. This is from the projects manager, Tony Jackson. We are recommended to note the contents of the report. Tony, have you got anything to add to this? Or, I mean, pretty much it's been covered in the budget, but I don't know if you wanted to add anything, and then I'll open it up for discussion.
Thank you, Chair. Not really. There's not a huge amount. Just to say, the Bonningstead beach huts, they have sold well this year, and we get an awful lot of interest. We've got a sale that's almost going through. With sort of touch wood. This time in a couple of weeks' time, we'll be going through. I've also got a viewing Monday, and we seem to be getting 2 or 3 queries a day coming through on email, which is loads more than we used to have. So so that's really good, especially for this time of the year.
Yeah.
The Westview beach huts, just going on that is now definitely going to go to committee for a decision. Our planning officer Jeff is just, I've got to get a little bit more information to him for that, but that's yes, so that's going to committee, so hopefully next meeting we have we'll know on that.
Okay.
The events, looking at the events, oh sorry, just going back to the filming, we've done really well on filming this year, despite COVID and everything, and Ellie, our filming officer, has done a great job of getting those in. A lot of it's down to being so easy to work with and being so it's a lot of negotiating with filming, and she's done a really good job with that. And we got another shoot happening actually next couple of weeks as well, a BBC shoot, which is really good. Touch on Christmas Magic. Obviously we've had to cancel it. It was always going to be a difficult one coming out of lockdown, and obviously with the being in tier 2 today, it just wouldn't have been able to go ahead anyway. So that's that. And last thing I'd like to say is that just on the team update, we have Sharon coming back to a role in December. And as I've said here, just want to say a huge thanks publicly to Ellie for doing the maternity cover. She'll still be working with us on the in her filming role, but she's been absolutely great this year. You know, probably the most challenging year she could ever, you know, come and join us. But she's been fantastic. So I'd just like to thank her.
Can we express our thanks, Sylvia?
Yeah, I was going to, yeah, it's written in there at 1.14, but I would like to add, thank you, Councillor Cash. I would like to add that could we please minute the thank you from us as a committee to Ellie? I'd like that minuted as well, please, if that's okay. Right, okay, well, I'm gonna, is that all, Tony? Is that the, yeah, okay, lovely. I'd like to open up this agenda item to the committee. Any questions? Councillor Brown.
Yes, Chair. At the Assets Working Group, we commissioned Councillor Rutland to come up with a marketing plan for the beach arts. I'm not quite sure. I think he wanted about a couple of £100 for banners and things. Not sure where that money should actually land, whether it should be here or F&GP. It's not, you know, not a huge amount of money, but I think we should support that.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Brown. Tony?
Yes, Councillor Rutland, I know, hasn't been well since our last meeting, so he hasn't had too much involvement. But I did have a meeting with the chair of the working group today, and we are going to get some additional banners up for the beach arts. I mean, normally this time of the year we don't get any interest at all, but obviously that's not the case this year. So so yes, we will be pushing that.
Thank you. Have we got any other questions? Can I ask a question, Tony, about the filming and photography? I heard a rumour, probably was a, that Silent Witness is coming down to Seaford to film. Was that just a rumour, or are they going to be in Seaford?
Strong possibility.
Oh, okay. One of my favourite shows. Okay, because I ended up as an extra in Hope Gap, but sadly didn't make it to the final film. I ended up on the cutting room floor, so I won't be going through that again. Any other questions for Tony on this report? Nope. Okay, so taking the recommendation, we are just recommended to note the contents of the report. Can I have all those in favour? Okay, thank you very much. Carried. Moving on, we are now at right, agenda item 6. We have to present the water refill station project and need for additional funding for consideration. The recommendations, as the committee recommended, to approve allocating up to 1,400 of additional funds from the earmarked reserved 361 CIL receipts towards the installation of 3 water refill stations along the Seaford Promenade. Note the contents of the report. Over to you, Tony. Have you got anything further to add?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, we originally applied for this grant, I think it was about 18 months ago. So obviously costs have just shot up since then. We did manage to negotiate the as I said in the report, the water refill stations down a couple of £100 each unit. The install costs really did. It wasn't obviously it wasn't very good for us. The original contractor said he completely underestimated the work, hence they were going up from £150 per install to 500. So we have gone out to other contractors, but we are getting back the same sort of costs. So the amount we're asking for here is the amount we're going to need, basically.
So, any questions? Open up to the committee. None. Councillor Walraven.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's, you know, it's unfortunate that these costs have gone up, but I think I propose that we should support it and that we go ahead and approve the allocating of the 1,400.
Thank you, Councillor Brevin. Councillor Meek.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to comment that I think the problem is often with contractors, it's like central government. As soon as they see government situation coming along, they see pound signs, and it's very unfortunate, but that just seems to be what happens. I think I quite support Councillor Walraven. I think we need to go ahead with it. It's really going to help plastic-free Seaford and what we stand for environmentally. So I really think we should support it.
Lovely, thank you, Councillor Meek. Tony, you put your hand up. Did you want to add anything to that?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I forgot to. I did forget to mention about the sponsorship opportunity that.
Yes, I know. Yeah, that's. I was going to mention that.
We're doing, and this is. We've already managed to have one of them sponsored, which is great news for 3 years. So that's
Excellent.
£250 a year. So that's £250 off the install to start with. So it's hopefully Emily's working very hard to get some more sponsorship in. But I will say that sponsorship will be earmarked for the maintenance of the stations and keeping them up to date. Like the tennis courts, I don't want to be sort of 5 years down the line and we've got these awful looking things that need replacing. That money is to keep them in good condition and eventual replacement.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? No. So we do have a proposal and a seconder for allocating the 1,400 of additional funds from earmark reserve 361 CIL receipts towards the installation of the 3 water refill stations along Seaford Promenade, and we, number 2, taking them together to note the contents of the report. All those in favour? Lovely, carried. Smashing. And that does bring us to the end of our meeting. Thank you very much, everybody, for attending. And I'd like to close the meeting. Oh, sorry, Councillor Brown.
Yes, I'd like to thank you for allowing me to attend your meeting and for listening to my opinions. Thank you very much indeed. It's been a very interesting meeting.
Nice to see you, Mark. Really nice to see you.
I do like councillors from other committees to come to different meetings because it keeps you all sort of abreast of what's happening. So when you can, it is good to turn up. So thank you, Councillor Brown, for attending.
You're welcome to come to next F&GP.
Yep.
And golf and the view.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Right, so looking at the time, the meeting is closed for 2023. Okay, thank you, everybody.